Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Behind the Small Business Podcast. My name is Kevin D'Andino, and this is brought to you, as always, by Centennial State Insurance Agency. This podcast, if you've been joining us for the last several episodes, we're interviewing a whole wide range of small business owners, allowing them to share their story, their experiences, and just put a face to the name behind their business. And so we've had a ton of different people so far. Somebody that owns a concrete business. We're going to talk to somebody that owns a bakery, a mother-daughter duo. That's coming up in a future episode. Today, I got some very special guests. One guy, Scott, who helps me out with my Broncos podcast, but his very lovely wife, Betsy, as well. And we're going to be talking today about Wuddleitbee Childcare. And this is going to be a really fun one because you're the first childcare owners that I've had on here today. So Scott and Betsy, how you both doing?
Doing good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
A busy day. Always busy.
Well, I'd imagine when you have like 30 plus kids running around, it's always a busy day.
Yes, for sure.
So let's just start off with this nice, easy question to kind of get the ball rolling here. The first thing I kind of always ask every business owner, what got you into your business? What made you say, you know what, I think a childcare is exactly the type of business that I want to go down and start this adventure. So kind of share with me kind of what went on in the background there to lead to your business.
Okay. Well, simply it started off as just a simple income for me because I had 3 children and when they were younger. So it gave me the opportunity to work from home, be there with my kids and still bring in a second income. As my children started getting older and moving out of the house, and I realized I had a really strong business going. And at that point, I knew it was time for me to move my business out of the home and find myself a childcare center to operate, which is what we did. We opened our first small childcare center we purchased it in 2014, and we opened it as a childcare center in January of 2020.
Okay. Not always the best time to open up a business.
Yeah, right in the pandemic, yes.
I figure that's the timing right there. It's just too inconvenient, right? At a certain point, you're just like, really, this is how we're going to go do this, People always talk about the first 5 years of business just being tough enough as it is. I can't imagine trying to do that during COVID. So, what were maybe some of the early lessons you learned there that maybe stemmed from having to deal with COVID as well, that kind of pushed you to the next level when it came to learning about being a business owner?
Well, there is a lot we had to consider, especially during the pandemic, but we were very fortunate to stay open the full time during that time and still be able to grow the business to the point that we went on a wait list. And I'd have to say our problem was really that we just didn't have enough room at our current location to grow our business. We knew it was time for us to expand out.
Right.
Well, and another thing, with COVID, some of the restrictions that were placed on childcare centers really impacted. Like if we had been in this location our second location that we just opened, it would have killed us because the restrictions on how many kids you could have in a room. All of these rooms are licensed from between 12 for toddlers and up to 18 for the preschoolers. It would have killed us if we had been operating this center back in 2020. But what we had there, we had just converted from a home daycare center to a small daycare center. And we'd been running 10 kids anyway, waiting for that conversion to the small center license, which happened basically a month ahead of the pandemic. So really, all it did is push us back to what we've been doing for the last 6 years anyway. So while it was challenging, we did not face the same challenges that these large care centers faced. And it hit these places hard. So I don't know. I felt pretty blessed with the fact that we were able to almost continue just as we had. And then coming out of the pandemic, then we continually bumped up to what we were able to license for, which was 15 kids at a time.
Okay. It sounds, being able to adjust like that, take the big step forward, right? And then have a chance to, well, we're going to take a step back now because we have to. But, being able to be flexible like that. So, one of the things that we've talked about in several of these other podcasts are flexibility when it comes to being a business owner. What kind of inflexibility do you have to deal with in your line of business? I think when you think about flexibility in terms of like restaurants, you got to update the menu, little things like that. You can't have the same menu from 20 years ago. For some business, it deals with marketing, right? And reaching out to new audiences and stuff like that, and being able to work on the fly. So when it comes to childcare and running that kind of business, what kind of things pop into mind when it comes to flexibility?
Well, it's interesting with our, it goes back to the name of the business, basically. We get asked a lot, what does the name Wuddleitbee, where did that come from? It stands for a lot of different things. First off, our ability to do lots of different things for the children. We're not a very stringent, this is the way it has to be day to day. A lot of times I've always asked, and will continue to ask, what'll it be next month? What do you guys want to do? What's your interest? What can we do to make it fun for you?
Wow.
So that's kind of where it was just a what'll it be? What'll it be? And then with scheduling, I think we get a lot of parents that are very appreciative that we do part-time, we do half days, we do full-time, we do drop-in enrollment. So it's not you have to fit into our schedule. Will only take you full-time, which a lot of centers do, and I understand that. But we do offer that flexible scheduling for a lot of our families in the community, which a lot of parents appreciate. And I am in the business of childcare, but I tell families, if you have that opportunity to have 1 or 2 days at home with your own kids and still be able to work and only need childcare 2 or 3 days or 4 days a week, do it, because they grow up quick. So that's another way with the word what'll it be, is we do a lot of flexible scheduling.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that story. And it was funny, when we used to be doing this this home daycare out of our home, and Betsy would be cooking breakfast, and she'd be, that's how the name developed. And it's just awesome, and it just works so well. And prior to us opening up the first location, we wanted, you were talking about marketing. We wanted to have something that kind of you could look at, and everything about the logo, basically you could feel what we are. And you can see our logo behind us. Yeah. And we named him Beasley.
Okay.
And I think the child that developed that logo for us, because we ran a contest with current and former students, and this child had just left. He was probably 11 or 12 when he drew this.
Yes, see, I think he was 8th grade, possibly, but he's now a sophomore at Mines.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he just makes me smile every time I see him. And when we moved over here to the larger center, I looked at the lobby area and I was like, we need to have him. He needs to be the face of our business. People will come in and it's going to pop at them. And so I just love it. It's one of my favorite things that we've ever done. Of course, the kid might eventually be kicking himself because we paid $500 for the rights. For the rights to this. That's all right. They're family friends, so
there you go. You're all good. You can't, you can't come over to dinner next week
up in Pines.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. Let's hear about some of the other challenges that you all have faced. It's interesting to hear your story of opening up a second business or a second location recently, and to take that additional step, right? I think it's scary enough to take one step into business, And to feel like you're successful enough to do that, to then say, let's do this all over again and expect to be just as successful again, right? And if you have a good business plan, if you have a good model, right, it makes sense. But talk to me about the decision of going down that path of deciding to opening up another location as well.
Well, we didn't want to open up a large center. Large center was never on our radar, ever. And we'd been talking about opening a second location because the other location was licensed. We had an exemption to do 18 kids, and that exemption was kind of coming to an end. And we just had so much requests. And so we decided, hey, let's find another place we can do this. We can replicate exactly what we did at this house that we converted into a center, into a commercial building. Well, one of our parents, he's a realtor, and he's a commercial realtor. So we kind of put a bug in his ear. So it was funny because he says, okay, I've got 3 or 4 properties. We went out and looked at them, and none of them it was either going to take a lot of work to convert it to have the home feel that we were looking for, because we wanted to be a center that kind of felt like a home daycare. Right. And we just couldn't find, the first 4, and it was like a week or 2 later, he walked in to pick up his child, and he looks at Betsy.
He gave me the biggest smile, and I will never forget that smile because it really changed for us on that day, because he says, I got you a property. And I said, wow. I go, where? He goes, right up the street. And I was like, up the street where? And I go, that daycare up the street. He goes, they up and left. He goes, it's vacant. He happened to also be the leasing realtor for these properties. So we had first in before it even hit the market. And I almost walked away. I said, it's too big. It's licensed for 90 children. We're licensed for 84 right now. And it's going really well. But I was like, it's like going from driving a small motorboat to all of a sudden you're steering the Titanic. It's like, this is big. This is a 5-room childcare center. But after 2 days of mulling it over, I thought, these opportunities don't come around every day. And to stay at my childcare center where we are, our smaller one, and watch another childcare move into here and take it over when I had the opportunity, I said, I'm always gonna wonder. And I said, I need to take the chance. And I picked up the phone and I called him back. I said, I'd like to do this. And a month later, we're signing the lease. So here we are. So we're all in now. So
and another little tidbit of this.
Yeah.
It was 3 years ago, because this property sits halfway between our home and our center. And they were doing all this construction, building these buildings.
Sure.
And I looked over and I'm like, oh, that's going to be a childcare center. And so we'd gone out for happy hour, and I said, hey, I just found out what's going in up the road here. And she's like, what? And I said, well, it's good. It's childcare. It's a center. And it broke my heart, because she just literally broke into tears. She said, we worked so hard all this time.
I just envisioned a big center coming in and then all of a sudden taking all of our business away. But Scott said, just keep doing what you do. Focus on what you do. Make it the best like you do, and it'll be fine. And ironically, we ended up taking over their business. So the childcare center that was built, and I watched it built a half a mile from our little place, I was like, it's like they're going to take all of our business. They're a big fancy building. And Scott's like, no, you got to just keep doing what you're doing. And we were continuing to be on a wait list. And then a few years later, they shut down. And
they just couldn't do it.
Wow.
And it's so cool. We thought, how do you get the small daycare center into such a large building? And it's amazing, this lobby. And you can't really tell it, but the color scheme and just how it's laid out and the things we've done, it's identical to as if you walked into our small daycare center. And
same colors, same everything.
It's amazing.
Sure.
The feel that this building has from the first day we walked in, and even the second time we said, well, let's go look one more time because we were unsure. And I always talk about energy and the buildings giving energy because, in restaurants, I don't know if you've walked into that really nice restaurant and you walk in and it's like somebody has sucked all of the life out of you because everybody's moving slow and there's no energy. The music's off or it's very low and it just feels blah. Yep. And then you walk into a restaurant that just, boom, it hits you in the face.
Has life.
And that's what I wanted here. And what gives buildings energy is the people you hire, the just how you greet people and you treat them like their family. And that's what I told her when we were talking initially about this place being our competition. They're not a competition because what we did, and I told her parents trust her. It's like dropping your kid off at a family member that that you would trust with your life. And that's how she runs her business. That's how she grew her business. And that's our challenge, is making sure, we are instilling that into the staff here. And it's not always the easiest thing because we've had a couple people who've had say, this isn't for you. Yeah.
Right.
You're used to big centers and you've worked at big centers and big centers, but we're a big center, but we're not a big center.
Yep.
We are going to do this and this and this because this is what we know works when taking care of children and taking care of our families. And it's been amazing. It has been really amazing, the transformation of this place, especially in the last 2 months.
Oh yeah.
Because it went from that first month we were open, we only had
5 or 6 kids.
Yeah, a big building like this, 5 or 6 kids.
There's so much room for activities.
Yes. We were putting we bought these little miniature bees that they could ride on, and they were riding up and down the hallway in them.
They do. But it's coming along, which is why we call it Wuddleitbee 2, TOO, instead of
Wuddleitbee 2,
Wuddleitbee 2, not TW.
Because, we want people to say, you know what? That's Wuddleitbee. But you know what? This is Wuddleitbee 2, as in also.
Yeah.
That's an awesome story. And one thing that really stood out to me in all of that, the idea of being worried of a big, you call it chain or just a more well-established, version of what you do, moving in literally right down the street. And that's got to be, I think a worry for any kind of business owner, small business owner or somebody that's thinking about opening their own business. Like, how can I possibly compete with some of these bigger guys, people that have been around for a long time? And I think you hit the nail on the head with just that idea of do your thing, figure out what makes it you, turn it into your thing and stick to that, be flexible with some, ideas or, what you need to do to make it be successful, but don't abandon your own principles at the same time, which leads me into the second thing you're talking about of really making sure you're cultivating that culture within your staff as well. So, what kind of things do you do with your staff to try to instill that same mentality that you all have right now?
Well, we're still hiring staff. So it's a continual process right now. It's onboarding. It's just getting them to know and understand our values, what we're looking for, that we are a team effort. In childcare, you have obviously different levels of qualifications, everything from just a teacher assistant to a teacher to a lead teacher to a director to assistant director. So there's a lot of different levels, even up to ownership. And I tell people, this is my business, I own it, but it doesn't bother me to step in and sweep a floor or change a diaper. And this is not about what your responsibilities are necessarily. That's not my job title, but it's more about working together and making sure that at the end of the day, it's the kids that have been taken care of and the families are picking up their children and knowing that they've had a great day here as they take them home. So that's something that we just continue to work on with every person we bring on board. Like Scott mentioned, we've had a few that right now it just wasn't a good fit for them. And so it's kind of a screening process. And it's definitely, for me, a big learning process because sometimes you think someone's going to do great and then you find out that it maybe is not the right thing for them, or vice versa. I've had one that I thought, well, we'll give it a try, and the employee is a little go-getter. So it's funny. It's kind of a trial and error right now, and it's something I'm learning. I know Scott's a little bit more advanced with hiring staff, working from restaurant, but for me, I've always had the same staff at my small childcare center, and it was simple to manage. And but now that there's more rooms to fill, which means there's more call-offs, there's more changes and requests off, and more, just getting everybody onto the same page. So it's for us, it's still a work in progress for sure, and it probably will be throughout this full year.
Right, but that idea of really instilling the values and putting your actions behind your words as well, making sure that they match. Hey, you can't be a business owner and say, hey, we're all a team, and then when everyone is scrubbing the floors, you're in your office with your feet kicked up on the desk, right, watching the game or whatever. You can't do that. That's what's going to get people to leave you quicker than anything. You know what I mean? But then from the flip side, from the owner side, you have to hold people accountable, and that, I know for me, I don't like confrontation like that. It's tough for me to be able to have those tough conversations sometimes, and to be able to look at people and hold them accountable, and to be able to do that and develop that skill, I think is really important for any business owner to kind of contemplate as well, especially if they're thinking about getting into owning a business. So really good points from both of you. Now, every business owner loves this part of the podcast. This is the most important and exciting thing of being a business owner, and that is insurance. And I'm sure you just wake up in the morning thinking to yourself, I get to talk about insurance today. I'm gonna look at my policy. It's gonna be so much fun, but really, it is very important, right? So every business has their own unique needs when it comes to insurance and stuff like that. So when it comes to being, having a child care center like you all have, what are some of the thoughts that come into your mind when I say insurance, whether it be, concerns, things that you worry about, things you look for in your policy, any kind of things like that?
Well, I think that's where we've learned, and we're still learning, because I think initially the thought was get us the cheapest thing so that we're not paying, through the teeth regularly. Yep. And I think, it's a challenge, and, we'll continue to re-examine policies and re-examine where we are with it. And, I can't say that we're doing backflips over the policies we have right now.
For sure. I think most business owners would say that.
And we're kind of finding that out kind of the hard way, because we had a roof leak down at the other location. Had actually, we've got that location closed down and have moved everybody up here for right now. And so, we're working our way through it. But, I would say we did not do our due diligence when shopping. I think price was the driving force. And I don't know. I wish I could say, yeah, I know my policy from front to back.
You'd be in the minority. You would be in the minority.
Backwards and forwards and up and down, left and right. We're finding it out as we go. We're going to continue to examine where we are.
It's funny. One of our parents, one of the grandparents of a couple of our kids that come here, she's an insurance agent. And when our other place was closed, and she goes, "Do you have business interruption insurance?" And I said, I felt really funny as a business owner, because I looked at her and said, "I'm not sure." She goes, "Well, you should." She goes, "Because if they didn't put that in there, that's wrong." Because I was like, yep. And we're still, as Scott's in the process of looking into that. But I mean, yeah, you look at the policy, it's like, I don't remember if we have business interruption insurance over there or not. And she says, "Well, you should." But, so it's something we're kind of looking into, which kind of makes us aware that we need to be a little bit more on top of what we have as far as insurance and how it.
We didn't do a great job with due diligence, I would say. We looked at the cost and we said, okay, we figured we didn't even really shop around. We went through an agent and said, "Hey, get us the best deal." And, it was an independent agent, and, and that's kind of how we did it. And, it was fine until it wasn't.
Yep. So, exactly.
I think we're kind of in that, okay, we may just have to ride it out until it comes up again.
Right. Exactly. It's good to hear you all talk about that, though, that the learning experience that you're going through. Because, with my super scientific stats that I have pulled up in front of me, exactly 97% of business owners think exactly the same way as you do, right? I mean, I'm making that number up, obviously, but don't hold me to that. But I would imagine that the vast majority of business owners feel the same way. It's something they have to deal with. It's something they have to have say on a piece of paper that they have insurance so they can operate their business. Yes. And you see those commercials that say, check out this app and fill out the form in 7 minutes, you'll be insured. And it's like, okay, maybe by the law, but what if you do get that leaky roof, or what if, something does happen, or, you do have to close your doors for 6 months due to something terrible. Do you have that business expenses continuation, part in your policy, and things that you want to think about. So it's good for you all to say that, because I think you're the first ones that we've had so far that have been really dealing with that. And part of it is you're new to opening up the second location, stuff like that too, versus the other ones that have been a lot more, I'd say, they've been around for a lot longer. But I just want the people who are listening out there, whether you're a business owner or you want to open a business, like, you don't have to have everything all figured out right off the bat, right? But to spend time and think about this, and, maybe every year it's something you reanalyze of, is there a worry that I had this year that I didn't think about, and would I be covered, in my policy with that? Not to just say, yep, I got my piece of paper, I paid my $20 for the month, and I'm good, right? So it's actually good and kind of refreshing to hear you talk about it like that.
Well, I think, that's how you learn. You just hope it doesn't ever come back and really bite you. And I don't think it has at this point.
Sure.
But, it did open our eyes that, hey, we need to probably, especially now, the stakes are higher. At one point, we own the property over there, and I worst case scenario, we lock up the doors, we sell the property, we go do something else.
Right.
Now we're very vested into this place now, and the potential is so much there, and the possibilities are so great. And it's funny. I used to always kid around about us being the little kid brother down the street, because I don't think the larger corporate centers that exist everywhere thought anything of it.
For sure.
But now we're kind of a player.
Yeah.
And the fact that some of they've lost some kids, they've lost staff to come work for us because they were unsatisfied with what they were seeing at where they were. We're on people's radars. So it just means we just got to continue to do the right things. And I think we will. I think we will. We're this last year is kind of it's been probably when COVID broke out. She always used to really do a lot more community stuff. Go to the senior centers for Thanksgiving and Halloween and we were a little bit more active. And then of course with COVID, that all kind of went away, and she had just started getting back involved in that. And then of course now the energy that we have is really focused on getting this up and going and running. And it's so, we're gonna, I'm excited about, I've got so many ideas of things. She's doing a scholarship with one of the acting studios, sponsoring a child to the scholarship to be in these plays and stuff. And so we're really building a lot of connections throughout the community. And
that's fantastic.
We're really, really working on that because that's important.
It is. And one idea that's come about through these podcast episodes when talking about community, for me, I was always thinking about just how they interact with the members of their community, right? But then there's the idea of how do you interact with the other business owner community, right? So can you touch really quickly as we kind of close up here, what do you all do, or how do you view interacting with other business owners around you to help build not just your business, but their business and small business as a whole in your community?
Oh, yeah. We love being part of different small businesses. Scott had mentioned the theater. Find Your Light is Brandon Harrington is the owner of that. And he has always been a part of our program as far as he provides. He's very entertaining, and he always provides music, or he comes in as a character. He came in as Dr. Seuss a few weeks ago, and the kids had a blast as he read a story for them. So he supports us. I support his business as well by, we always have little flyers out when they have a production available, and he's a very small business as well, getting established. And so just those connections with people, and just our parents in general. We like to make sure we're actually getting ready to put like a parent board up here where different families can put out. We have a dog groomer. We have people that do roofing. Perfect. We have people that do photography. All these little small businesses are so important, to everybody, and everybody needs a service at one point or another. And to have that board up and have parents be able to put something up there about their skills that they offer to the community is important to share that.
Right. No, that's a good point. And it's really awesome to see just any small business kind of just willingly, openly promote all those other businesses, even if it, just a simple act of having a promotion board like that, where people can put business cards and announcements and flyers. To me, when I see that in a business, I instantly just have a little bit more respect for them. Because you could very easily be like, no, this is my business. The only promotion I want going on in this building is my business, right? Yeah. I'm here to make money for myself. Like, okay, yeah, I mean, technically you're not wrong, but you have an opportunity here, So it's really cool to hear that and to see businesses do things like that as well. So I can just tell you right now that goes a long way.
Well, and, one of the things that Betsy's always done is she's always networked with all the other small daycares, excuse me, So a lot of them just home daycares.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times where one of our families would, that we were watching their kids would have a baby, and we didn't do infant care. And she had a lady that she knew, that she trusted, and we would send them her direction. I mean, we probably did that, I don't know how many times, but a lot of times. And it's important to have those connections.
Yeah, you gotta, if you can't if you're not able to do bring this family in for the business, maybe it's a schedule that doesn't fit, or something, or an age that doesn't quite work out. Or it's location or distance. There's always somebody that I know that I can reach out to, that I can kind of get that. Does anybody have an opening for a 14-month-old? At this point, we're licensed for that age group, but for a while there, we weren't. It was always 2.5 and up. So you hear a voice on the other end of the phone, and it doesn't matter. It's not about you at that point. It's about helping this family in our industry. Not just what I do, but what everybody in our community. There's got to be somebody out there that has an opening that can kind of help this family out.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear, guys. Well, we are at the end of the show, and I'll just say, first off, thank you, Scott and Betsy, very much for spending your time coming here, talking, sharing your story. I think it's a really awesome story. Just everything you all are doing for your community, with your business. So thank you very much. And for everybody out there, if you're in the Loveland area or know of someone who's in the Loveland area that's looking for childcare, definitely check out Wuddleitbee out there in Loveland. And I can just attest from knowing Scott and Betsy for several years here, they are remarkable people. And I can only imagine how great of a business this is going to end up being as you continue to let it grow over the next several years. So seriously, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, if you are a business owner yourself or know of a business owner that would love to come on a future episode, feel free to send us a message on our Facebook page. I think we have some email addresses there as well. You can reach out to us. We're looking for any and all kind of business owners. We've had piano teachers. We've had event planners. We have childcare provider, daycare centers here. So we're looking for anybody and all types of business owners. So let us know if you'd like to be featured on a future episode. No strings attached, nothing like that. Love to talk to y'all about it. So seriously, thank you again, Scott and Betsy, and thank you to everyone else who's been tuning in to this podcast. And we'll see you next time on another episode of Behind the Small Business, brought to you by Centennial State Insurance Agency. Take care, everyone.